Thanks so much.
No, thank you.
Okay, first, Stefania, short introduction. Stefania Maurizi is an investigative journalist now working for the Italian newspaper Il Fatto Quotidiano. She's worked from 2009 as a media partner with Wikileaks on all major revelations and publications, and she recently published the book Secret Power, Wikileaks and Its Enemies. And we're very happy, Stefania, that you can talk with us today.
Thank you, Richard. Thanks to DeFKa. I'm very grateful for this interest, and I'm pleased that we can have this conversation.
Yes.
I will enjoy it. By the way, I have the picture right here, right? So we see how the book.
Great.
Okay, Julian Assange is charged in an 18-count superseding indictment by the US grand jury for obtaining and publishing classified diplomatic and military secrets. And in 2019, Assange was arrested in London on a US arrest warrant, and he has now been held for almost 4 years in a high-security British prison. And he faces extradition to the US and a sentence up to 175 years in an American maximum security prison. And he is the first journalist charged under the Espionage Act. And all major human rights organizations and all major news outlets have warned that this indictment sets a dangerous precedent. Does the indictment undermine the freedom of the press?
Absolutely. And this is why I accept any opportunity to discuss this case, because I'm not sure whether people realize that we are at a crossroad. We are at a crossroad, and unless people understand that if the democracy, one of which has basically such a strong protection for the freedom of the press that it includes constitutional protection for the press, and this is not so common in democracies to have a constitutional First Amendment protecting the freedom of the press and the freedom of speech. Well, if a democracy where the press enjoys constitutional protection can put in prison for life journalists for revealing war crimes and torture, where we are no longer a democracy. This is why with this case, we are at a crossroad. And depending on whether we go to this direction or the other direction, our society will deeply change, not for the good, unfortunately. If the moment Julian Assange leaves the European soil, is gone. The moment he leaves Europe, even if Britain is no longer Europe, in Europe there is a large mobilization of the public opinion compared to the United States.
Now, the UK Home Secretary has approved to extradite Julian Assange to the US after the UK Supreme Court ruled that there was no legal questions over assurances given by the US authorities on Assange's likely treatment there, even though there was a Yahoo News article that reported that the CIA plotted to try to kill or kidnap Assange. Assange appealed against this decision in the High Court. Do you think that these US assurances are reliable? And what is the current status of the appeal? And how is Assange's health?
So the appeal is still ongoing. We are still waiting for the British High Court to decide on Julian Assange appeal against the extradition, which has already been ordered by the UK courts. So he's trying to appeal to avoid to be extradited. But the High Court hasn't decided yet, and I have no idea why it takes so long to decide. And I have asked the legal team of Julian Assange why it takes so long, and they said we have no clue on why it takes so long. However, we have seen in this case that what they are trying to do is to basically to break him down. At the same time, how can he have a fair trial after it came out that the CIA had planned to kill him, to poison him?
Yeah.
So there is no, not to say when the High Court in the UK will have their decision. There is no date, whatever.
There is no date. There is no date. So it might take 1 month, it might take 2 months, it might take 9 months.
We have in the Netherlands, we are based in the Netherlands. We have in the Netherlands, we have the High Court in The Hague. It's International Strafhof. Maybe we should try to make this a point and a case in the International Strafhof in The Hague.
Yeah, he has tried to appeal to, he will appeal to the European Court of Human Rights. And we have a chance. I mean, we know that the European Court of Human Rights has proved to be quite independent from local government. At the same time, we see a very dangerous situation in the United Kingdom in which this Tory, the Tory government, basically despise any international law, any international institution, and they claim we don't want to be told what to do as a nation by other international institutions. My strategy was I would try to use Swedish freedom of information laws to try to get the full documentation from the United States, United Kingdom, Australia. And it worked. It worked because Sweden released me the first documents, which were very, very few, but very, very important. And these documents provided an answer to this mystery, to this crucial fact. And the reason why the Swedish prosecutors didn't want to go to London to question him was that the British authorities at the Crown Prosecution Service had told the Swedish prosecutors, don't come here, question him only after extraditing him to London. Yes, please.
Oh, sorry.
Sure, it's a pleasure. Please ask.
I didn't realise I could just ask a question. Thing is, yesterday evening I listened to the podcast of Parallax Views, your interview with them. And what I still don't understand is why, because the indictment procedure started under Pompeo.
Yeah.
And Obama didn't want to support it because of the reasoning that if we indict a journalist and convict him and then jail him, we'd have to also convict the New York Times, say, for publishing his work, his findings. But of course, the Trump government had no such qualms. Well, it was a free-for-all, really, wasn't it? So Pompeo just, they were against the New York Times anyway, so the liberal press, as it were. What I don't understand, that under Biden, the extradition procedures are being supported. I mean, Biden is a Democrat president, not a Republican president, not a GOP president. So do you know why his government is supporting the extradition indictment?
Yeah, this is a very, very good question. And let me just finish the Swedish FOIA. So I discovered this crucial information and immediately went to the UK authorities at the Crown Prosecution Service to get the documentation, and they refused. So I had to start a litigation against everyone, against the State Department in the US, because they didn't want to release me the documentation. And this litigation is so important because basically the agencies involved in this case are the very same which are now trying to extradite Julian Assange. So the Crown Prosecution Service in the UK, in London, is precisely the agency through which the United States authorities are acting in this extradition request. So they were in charge of the attempt to extradite him in Sweden at the beginning, and now to extradite him in the United States. So whatever documentation I get, it is very relevant for the current extradition. That's why I keep litigating since 2015. Regarding the important question asked by Gert, so it's really important to understand that while the Obama administration opened immediately an investigation on Julian Assange Wikileaks in 2010, as soon as they published the documents, the secret documents on the war in Afghanistan, in Iraq, the cables, and the documents on Guantanamo. These are the documents for which Julian Assange risks 175 years in prison, these documents. So they started the Wikileaks and Julian Assange in 2010 and published the last one, the documents about Guantanamo, in April 2011. So these documents go back to over a decade. The Obama administration immediately opened an investigation, and they kept open this investigation for years. However, they never charged Julian Assange and Wikileaks for publishing these documents. Why? Because, as Gert said, the Obama administration realized that there was no way to charge Julian Assange and Wikileaks unless they charge everyone. Every media partner who published these documents, and we were dozens, I think we were around 90 media around the world publishing these documents. So something really, really big. It would have required to indict the New York Times, the Washington Post, El País, Le Monde, Der Spiegel, La Repubblica, basically the entire media system on this planet. It would be mad. And of course, the Obama administration realized that this would have been extremely problematic, extremely dangerous for press freedom. It would have left a terrible legacy. Why Biden hasn't dropped this case? This is a very good question. Probably he felt the pressure from the national security complex. So we know that the Democrats are still very, very, very in good terms, even if we tend to believe that the Republicans are more involved with the national security complex, with the military industrial complex. We know that even the Democrats are very close, have very strong relationship. And probably he is also under pressure by the CIA, by the NSA, telling him, look, the moment we give up, we risk that every whistleblower, we have something like over 4 million people having access to classified documents in the United States. What they do is to keep him indefinitely in prison so that he crumbles, he crashes, they are crushing him, and probably even if he comes out from the prison, it will be basically a finished man. It will be destroyed, it will be broken completely. This is what they are doing.